And we have started the recording. So in case you are uncomfortable in being recorded, I would kindly need to ask you to leave the session. And of course, you are welcome to watch it afterwards when it's uploaded to our YouTube channel. But yeah, please do stay. I can see that we have 16 people in the room, which is still a bit low compared to our previous sessions during the week. So we might wait another minute or two to see if we have more people joining. I don't know if many of you have participated in the previous session in which the change management task force were just presenting the concept for SuSanA 2.0. There has been lively discussions and about all the possibilities and how we would like the network to continue. So I think people are still having a health break in between and might be joining in.
Madeline, you made it as well. That's good to see.
Your microphone is off, so we couldn't hear you.
I can't see myself as usual, but I'm definitely here. So I hope there's more than my head or forehead or my cheek. Hopefully there's face.
Yeah, that's always a problem. But yeah, we can see you properly. I can see Dorothy, perhaps a bit tired now after the whole week. Nice to see you. And we have 22 people now in the session, which is slowly increasing the number of participants.
So should we start then?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
So, and I'm starting the session now, welcoming everyone to the closing plenary of the 31st SuSanA meeting. It has been a super intense week, and I hope you had enjoyed it. Attending to many sessions and found it useful and helpful for your work, that you had a chance to communicate and network with others. So welcome everyone. Thank you also for being present and making this 31st SuSanA meeting possible. So as I mentioned earlier, we are being recorded and the session will be uploaded to the SuSanA YouTube channel afterwards. So in case you are not fine with that, I kindly ask you to leave and follow up afterwards with the video. Just as a basic rule, we appreciate your participation, that's for sure. But while people are presenting or you are not supposed to speak, please turn off your microphones so we don't have so much of the background noise interrupting and distracting. The chat will be open throughout the session, so feel free to post your comment, your question, whatever you feel like to share with us. And we had planned 90 minutes. Let's see how the discussion goes on. And if finishes earlier, then we have a bit more time to network at WonderMe. So in case you haven't joined the opening plenary, I'll be happy to introduce you afterwards, this platform, which give us a bit of a feeling of a closer connection, almost to a face-to-face meeting. So we have planned for the session, besides this warm welcome and some basic housekeeping rules, we're gonna make a small retrospective of how has been the week, and of course, gather some feedback from you. Then we'll have some announcements from the SuSanA Secretariat, some things that happen and will be about to happen. Then we would like to engage in a discussion with you about the 32nd SuSanA meeting. How shall we go about it? Any ideas? And then, of course, some nice wrap up and the networking that we have planned. And with that, I hand over to Finn.
Thank you, Cecilia. I hope everybody can hear me.
Perfectly, loud and clear.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll have a small, looking back at the week. So basically the 31st SuSanA meeting was the second time that the SuSanA meeting was held online. After last year, the 30th SuSanA meeting, we decided to keep a bit smaller because last year we had 20 sessions over the course of 2 weeks. And it was a great experience, but also really challenging for the Secretariat with our capacities. So this year we wanted to make it a bit smaller, but still our aim was to have and connect many people with different backgrounds with each other, and also like get as many diversity in the sessions as possible. And I think we did a good job together with our presenters and the organizers of the other sessions. With the opening plenary, I think we had some really great keynote speeches and thematic inputs, including ecosystems, including the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund, which has been quite silent over the last weeks and months. So we were really happy to share or to have Sue on board to share the updates on the Sanitation and Hygiene Fund. Then also, I personally really liked the input by Rubaiyat Khan. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it as well as we did. Also on Monday, we had the experiences on monitoring the SDG 6.3, followed by 3 sessions on Tuesday. The first one was on sanitation workers, the second one on papers to practice and the Working Group 1 meeting, and the third one on walking the talk, professional women taking action. I was only able to attend the Working Group 1 and the papers to practice session, but so far what I saw from Tuesday, I really enjoyed the session. And also the concept of papers to practice, where Laura and Dorothy launched their new podcast on papers to practice, where they put scientific papers, they interview the authors and they try to get the essence out of it and how to make use of it in a daily life as a sanitation expert or worker. On Wednesday, we started with the Working Group 10, how we can ensure that sludge reaches the treatment plant, continued with the FSM 6 highlights, and had afterwards the FSM in Latin America session. It was really heavy on FSM, on fecal sludge management, but I think there was also a high interest in this topic. On Thursday, we continued with the safe reopening of schools. It was organized also by our Working Group 7. Then continued by building climate resilience towards sanitation and hygiene. I think this was also very important. Like all of the topics were super important, but I also really enjoyed this one. And the last one on Thursday was the behavior change for COVID-19 response and social outcomes, also organized by the Working Group 13. And on Friday, I hope some of you at least have joined the entrepreneurs working on solutions for urine recycling. I really enjoyed that topic because it was also hands-on experience and really what one can do on a daily basis with urine recycling. And I recommend you to also take a look on the recording when we upload it on YouTube. Also, another important session was on the CMTF process, SuSanA 2.0 by the Change Management Task Force. I don't know whether all of you are aware of it, but the Change Management Task Force looked on how the SuSanA can continue in the future, and it's also really advisable to look at the session and the presentation of them. And finally, we are at the closing session right now, the last session of the SuSanA meeting, or the 31st SuSanA meeting. And I think we did a very good job in having a very diverse setup of sessions, and also hopefully having as many people as possible with as diverse backgrounds as possible in the sessions. Going to the statistics, as I just presented, we had 12 thematic sessions plus 1 opening and closing session. We had about 50 to 7 participants in average per session, and in total we had 780 registrations in our form that registered through the website, but that includes 1 or multiple sessions. So I think in total, I just added up the numbers earlier today. If we add the registration for each session, we ended up at 5,000 something. And I think we are really happy with the results. Of course, there's still some things missing, like the gender balance or ratio of the session conveners, or the global from where people joined, but we'll look into these numbers later. Now I invite you to a quick feedback round on WithAssembly. Chaudhry or SuSanA, one of them will put this link in the chat, and the password for the WithAssembly will be SuSanA 2021 with a capital S, another capital S, and a capital A, and 2021. I think Shabana is going to share her screen now. In a second. And over to you, Shabana.
So I request all of you to go to app.withassembly.com. The link is on the chat box, and also use the keyword SuSanA31 to answer your questions. And I see that the answers for the first question are already popping on the screen. So we've asked if you are a SuSanA member or not, and you can see that most of you have answered yes, but I will still give it a few more seconds for all of you to complete this question. But please stay on the app. We have other questions that will come up. So I see most of, like all of you here are SuSanA members, or at least those who are attending the closing session. So Finn, we can move to the next question now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid
how did you?
I am not managing, but I hope that's just me. So it says using the link or vote. I'm a bit confused at the moment, but yeah, please. If people are answering, then
left side are the results, and right side just the new question popped up. I was as well surprised because an old question was there, but now the new one is there.
All right.
So how did you learn about the 31st SuSanA meeting? I can see that most of you have accessed the meeting through either the website or the forum, or through like word of mouth, through friends or colleagues. That's nice to see that the SuSanA network is still active, and colleagues and friends are able to provide or like information on the meeting via other channels. Oh, I see that newsletters also popping up. So we do have a huge subscriber list who receives the newsletter from time to time. Okay, but the website has been the central player here, which means most of you still access the website on a daily or weekly basis for your work. So Finn, let's move on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
So how was the SuSanA meeting overall in terms of the topics, the sessions that you were in, and the content? So you would just need to rate us, with 0 being the least and 5 being excellent. I see that the score is wavering depending on the answers, between 3 and 4. We'll give it a few more minutes. So we have a 3.9 on 5, which is not bad. But of course, members are very diverse and we all have different expectations on what a meeting like this could look like. But I think 3.9 is a pretty good score, which means most of you were satisfied, but probably you did miss certain elements, which we can discuss later. So Finn, could you move to the next question, please?
Mhm.
So how many sessions did you attend? So most of you have attended more than 5 sessions and have been active throughout the week. We had I think 9 sessions in total, with the opening, plenary,
12
and the
sessions.
closing.
12
Sorry?
sessions plus 12 sessions plus opening and closing.
12 sessions plus opening class. Oh, did I miss the regional chapter sessions? That we had the stepping stone sessions. But I do see that most of you attended at least 2 to 5 events and or more than 5 events. Okay, let's move to the next question.
Mhm.
So here you could describe what you liked most about the meeting. You could either write multiple words or just one word. So I see the word diversity popping up. So there was global participation, which means there were people from different regions and there was diversity of topics and people. So it was really proving to be an international event with updates on sanitation, and people were willing to contribute. And we see that people shared experiences from different parts of the world. And up-to-date information was something you liked about the meeting, and also no or few carbon emissions. Well, because we did not travel this time. But of course, I think there might be a bit of carbon footprint from the electricity or anything else that we use. There's innovation, innovative topics probably, and yes, I think I've covered most of it. It didn't need to travel, so I think having online meetings has proved effective in some ways, because people who don't usually attend these meetings are able to join from their homes or from their office space. So thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next question then. What did you dislike or miss in the meeting? So those who had a score less than 4 or 5 could put what you did not like about the meeting, or what do you think could be improved, or what did you miss the most? So I see that language was considered a barrier. We did have one session partly in French and partly in English. I think, yeah, with online meetings, it's often the problem with language is that we would need simultaneous translations. and people who are willing to do that. And this would need more organizational efforts, but this would be considered definitely. Sitting in front of screen is definitely tiring for a lot of people. We've all experienced fatigue, and we're not able to meet people, and missing the face-to-face interaction definitely is a minus point. And then someone has mentioned time difference. Yes, we did try to schedule at least one session per day in the Asia time zone, and one in the European African time zone, and the other one catering to the West. But still, that would mean that people are not able to attend all these sessions. And this is exactly why we're recording the sessions, and we would have them available on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. I see that there is this online fatigue that's been expressed as one of the concerns. And not enough on broader decolonization aspects. Yes, we did definitely consider that. The thing is, we are definitely trying to anchor decolonization as a topic on the SuSanA forum. And based on demand, we could definitely have this topic in our future webinars. And the Secretariat can look into it to see how we can engage more speakers or more interaction on this, or exchange on this topic. Okay. I think we just have one question left, if I'm not wrong, Finn.
There are
Or
two more
are we done?
questions.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, only
Please
two.
go ahead.
So the next one is, which format would you like for future meetings? We'll also discuss that question in a bit. It's also one of the points on the agenda.
Yeah, and also probably, Finn, we can look into the platforms that we've used, Zoom and Teams. I think all platforms have their own advantages and disadvantages, but it would be good to hear it from the participants. I think most people have said hybrid, so it could be, I mean, I think everyone likes a good balance of online meetings and face-to-face meetings. Of course, the pandemic has not permitted that, but I see that quite a few participants are also enjoying this time online, and not having to travel, or probably it's much less expensive and less stress to just join from our homes or office spaces. But we do have a certain percentage of participants who really like the face-to-face interaction and being there physically. I do miss it sometimes, of course, but I think hybrid mode is gaining popularity, and we will definitely consider that for our future meetings, to have a good balance of face-to-face and online events. The last question, Finn?
Shabana, may I just add to that?
Yes,
Just to
Cecilia, please.
say that until last year, actually, most of the sessions were somewhat hybrid in a way, because we did have the live streams and we did have a tweet thread going on. So we did often take up some questions from the audience, but I really appreciate that over the past 2 years we were able to grow with experiences and how to make these two formats working together to the benefit of all participants. So I think we are all learning on the process, and it's always great to at least allow people to join the sessions from the distance. Yep.
Thanks, Cecilia. So here the last question is, what topics would you like addressed in future meetings? So if you have other topics apart from the ones mentioned here, please put them on the chat. This will be definitely taken into consideration when we plan other webinars or SuSanA meetings. I'm not sure why we're not able to see the answers.
So far we have 8 answers, but
I see that some of you are also responding on the chat. Finn, could you say what are the popular choices?
I also can't see them yet.
Okay, maybe once we've ended the question, we'll be able to see it. But the other options on the chat are, I see that climate and then reuse, container-based sanitation is still interesting. Some of them have mentioned SDGs. So I think as we go closer to 2030, it's really important to have discussions on accelerating the SDG progress. I see climate change, rural sanitation, and circular economy or reuse-oriented sanitation is also seen as important topics.
Okay, so I've stopped the survey and now we can see the results.
Oh, yes. We see SDG progress is a very popular one. And then we do have regional topics, more regional meetings, CYs addressed. And then comes hygiene and behavior change, and then WASH and institutions.
Also
and then
decolonization.
Decolonization, yes, with 33%.
And sanitation workers. Yeah, thanks a lot. I think we'll try to evaluate the feedback, and I mean, I can now say that we'll try to integrate it, but I'll be gone as this will be my last meeting as part of the Secretariat, but I think SuSanA and the Secretariat will really take the feedback to heart. And now we continue to the announcements of the Secretariat. So the first announcement would be presented by Sean and Arne, and is the, now my PowerPoint is, it's a new donation button for the SuSanA forum. And therefore I invite Arne and Sean to turn the micro on and say a few things.
Okay. Yes, maybe. Okay. We had the forum as a much loved part of the SuSanA platform, and we came to know that the Rural Water Supply Network has established a donation button, and that it could be an opportunity to test that out as well on the SuSanA platform. And so we've made the effort to put a donation button there, and donations which come in would exclusively support the moderation of the forum, as this is a monthly need, and it was taken care of over many years by as well the Gates Foundation, and that has stopped. And as well the BMZ was stepping in a bit, but I think it's a great experience as well for the change management task force and of all of us. If we have sort of a donation-based mechanism, how much would that help us? So maybe if we can go to the next slide. There is the donation button ready from now. And if we go to the next slide already. Funding for the moderators, well, and I think that's a really important thing to do. I think this forum is one of the rare, more active forums around an SDG aspect on the global level, and it's so since long, and it's so because of the moderation. And I think thanks have to go to Elizabeth, who started this and did it over years, and thanks have to go to a group of other moderators now who are taking over or supporting and help that the forum is free of spam and that answers are put to the right thread and so on. And I really am curious how much we can bring together. I personally, I would like to say that some of us can more easily make a donation, and some are more in the position that they should actually use the forum without paying for it. So this, from my point of view, as well goes into the direction that some will show solidarity to the forum and to SuSanA, and we'll find out what amount is it, and that as well will help us to understand if we think about a sort of the next incarnation of SuSanA, the change management process where we might head. And I think that's it from my side, and I invite Sean to add to it.
Great, thank you. So I just want to add 3 points to what Arne's said. So first of all, just to explain for those who aren't familiar with SCAT Foundation. So we are a very small non-profit based in Switzerland, and we host the Secretariat of the Rural Water Supply Network. As Arne mentioned, at the beginning of the year, we introduced a donation facility onto the RWSN website to encourage voluntary financial contributions from our members to help us sustain the services that we do, and that's met with some success. It's got off to a good start. So it's great that we're having the opportunity to take what we've learned from this and adapt this to the SuSanA forum context, which I think is in some ways an easier sell because it is around a very specific platform, a very lively platform, as Arne mentioned. So my second point is really around that it is one of the most vibrant discussion platforms out there. When I've had the pleasure of the last year and a half to be actively involved with the SuSanA forum and to compare it to other online forums in different sectors, including our own in RWSN, and to give you some idea, it's about twice as active as RWSN D group communities, and it's not just about quantity of messages and exchange, it's also about quality. It's proper discussions between practitioners, asking questions, sharing information, really doing what online exchange should be about. And that brings me to my third point, which is around the importance of moderation, because yes, the software platform is to a certain extent important, but what's really important, what really makes a difference are the moderators. So Elizabeth Chawe in Zambia, Paresh, who's on the line today, I think from India, they bring enthusiasm, they welcome new members into the community, they help with questions, they try and stimulate the debate and get some new discussions going where people have posted questions to either answer them directly from their own expertise or to go, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know someone who does, and invite them into the conversation. So that's great. And I think that is the real value of having paid moderators to do that. And it's important that we kind of break out of this cycle of being dependent on grants the whole time, particularly as it's such a valuable activity, but it's a difficult thing often to sell to donors. But if it's something that members value, not just for themselves, but for others, and they feel that it's something they want to contribute to, like if you can contribute financially to Wikipedia or to the Guardian newspaper or whatever, similar sorts of activities, then I really do encourage you to do it, because I think it's going to make a huge difference. Well, it already is making a huge difference, but it allows it to continue to flourish in the long term. So I really do encourage you to participate financially and also in the technical discussions themselves. So thank you very much, and I'll hand back.
Thanks a lot, Sean and Arne. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. Either turn your microphone on and ask them or put them in the chat. Also on the donation page, you will find frequently asked questions sections where you will find probably answers to some of your questions already. But really welcome you to ask the questions also right here and right now. That doesn't seem the case. So we'll continue with a small announcement. The ones that have been in the opening plenary on Monday will already know that SuSanA is now also on LinkedIn. It will supplement our accounts on Facebook and on Twitter, and we welcome all of you to join us not only on Facebook and Twitter, but also now in the SuSanA LinkedIn group, where we'll also post about our Forum Friday, our SFDs, about new publications and also sanitation events. And it has been like a few weeks ago that I have spoken with a SuSanA member. Actually, it was Chaiwe, one of the moderators, and she was saying, oh, on the SuSanA Facebook page, you're not posting anything at all, or just like once every few weeks. And actually, that's not the case. We are posting there every day, also on Twitter. It's just the algorithm that is restricting people that are not paying for the posts. And I think their LinkedIn is a bit better in terms of the algorithm. So I really invite you and encourage you to join us also on LinkedIn if you have LinkedIn. Joturi has put the link into the LinkedIn group in the chat, I think. And yeah, I hope to connect with you on LinkedIn. Then moving on to the topic that we had already in one of the questions, the future of the SuSanA meetings. So far we have had 30 plus this SuSanA meeting, and traditionally it was taking place by twice a year. So one in the Global South and one in Stockholm. And just the last one and this one are taking place online. And there are some pros and cons of online meetings. The pros is that it's more flexible for participants, people who maybe not have the funds or the financial or even the time to travel to, for example, to Stockholm. They can just turn in online and join the meeting. There are lower expenses in regards of travel, in regards of accommodation, in regards of catering, and also some others. It is more inclusive in a sense that it has this increased flexibility for participants, that they don't have to spend the money to go to places that are far away, to pay for accommodation, for catering, but it's also less inclusive or not inclusive for everyone who has a bad internet connection or is restricted, for example, that he or she might not be able to enter Zoom or MS Teams meetings. One of the big advantages is the reduced CO2 emissions. We had that also already in the assembly. Just due to the flights that are not taken, through the travels that are not traveled, it's just a decreased CO2 footprint. There's the chance to record the meetings and maybe make it available for knowledge management later. Also, the sharing of conference material is easier. Just send out an email with the conference material attached. Also, it's better for your health. There are studies that show that people who are traveling a lot for their job suffer health. Also, the food that you eat, you're not able to stick to your diet, to keep your routines. Usually you're not exercising while on a conference. So that's also one aspect to take into consideration. The cons of online meetings is definitely Zoom fatigue. So that people, especially now after this long time of COVID already, some just sit in front of the laptop, turn on the conference, and then drift away with the thoughts. I think that's one of the cons. Also, the interactions between the participants are difficult. Of course, you can solve some of these problems with some software, but in total or in general, like participation within the sessions isn't that easy. Also, it's only visual and audio. It's less dynamic, also depending on the format of the session, but in general, it's more front-based. There are also the technical boundaries that I mentioned before. So the internet connection, there might be wrong links, limited software which is available, or your company restricts you on the software. So that are all technical boundaries that you can avoid to some extent, but not totally. Also, in difference to sessions or to meetings that are taking place non-virtual or non-online, is that participants may be in different time zones, which makes it hard to follow up on sessions. Also, the participants may not know each other, and getting to know each other is much more easier when you're seeing each other face to face, and thereby there are very limited possibilities for networking. So we discussed hybrid events before. So a hybrid event is a trade show, conference, unconference, seminar, workshop, or other meeting that combine a live in-person event with a virtual online component. That's the definition that I got from Wikipedia, and we can see that many of the pros and cons. The pros are impacted, for example, I would disagree that hybrid events are more inclusive than online events, as there's like some people can afford the travel costs to go to the live event. Also, the reduced CO2 emissions will rise when the event is taking place live. And also, I think it's, weakens a bit the pros and increases a bit the cons, or betters the cons. So now the question is how to continue with the SuSanA meetings. And therefore, I invite you for an open discussion. So traditionally, it was 2 face-to-face SuSanA meetings per year. Now for the last 2 years, actually last year in February, there was a live face-to-face event still taking place. But so traditionally, we had it once per year in Stockholm, one in the Global South. How to continue with it? Should we exclusively have online meetings? Should we have online plus face-to-face events like one-on-one? And should then the face-to-face event be in Stockholm or in the Global South? How about hybrid events? In the question earlier, you showed that many of you have interest in hybrid events. Then we'll have to see how the Secretariat can figure out the technical things. But also just in general, also, how is your experience with hybrid events, and what are barriers or challenges you are seeing or you are actually facing regarding online events or face-to-face events? And yeah, I would like to invite you to speak up, give your opinion on that. I think it's a good and interesting and also important topic. There are many arguments in favor of online events, but also in favor of face-to-face events and the hybrid events in between. So I think that Madeline always has an opinion. So I would like to start with you, if you're okay with it. If I may invite you to speak up. Of course, anybody else is also invited to give their opinion on that.
Maybe until Madeline is available, we have a practical sort of, there's a face-to-face meeting planned on World Toilet Day at sort of organized by ERWAC, and beforehand we'll have at least, I think, a cities group and a working group, schools and institutions webinar online event. So that will already be sort of a mix. For me, the bigger question is what would be the next potential face-to-face event around which we then in a concrete question can tackle these questions. For me, it's very sort of situation driven. And I think there are bigger water events coming up, like in 2 years, revisiting the SDG progress and so on. So this would be my idea to look at an event and then to revisit the question with the additional knowledge we have. What is a good way? Because maybe some people are there, maybe quite a number of people are there, and all that will influence what is a good mix of and face-to-face. So that should be an icebreaker, so I hope others speak up as well.
Cecilia's raising her hand.
Yeah, but I'm also a bit more suspicious as consider myself still part of the Secretariat, but perhaps just share my experience and something that I found really great in the past years has been the ability to react spontaneously to the circumstances. And that's something that, given the COVID pandemic situation, has proven to be more of a value of having this flexibility. Very often I've been traveling and having sort of the regional SuSanA meetings organized and together with other in parallel to other conferences, and I have to say that this has been always the most exciting aspects of the meeting for me, because it's there actually where we meet people that are not in Stockholm, might not join an online session, or if they join, they might not speak or might read the forum but not post. And that's when the opportunity that the people come to you and say, hey, so cool what you're doing. And that's like where we can see, which is so hard to measure in terms of what is the impact of knowledge management, what is the impact of knowledge sharing and networking. This face-to-face contact is where you see, okay, that makes sense. Deep breath, continue doing it. So I think it's a very interesting aspect and important that we should not really miss it. But of course, the online participation, at least from what I'm noticed last year and this year, we are always surprised about the amount of people that comes for the first time and joins the meeting, which is actually super cool, which means that also the community hasn't stopped growing and it's continuing to expand. So I think this mix between the two, and then we can also find ways on deciding based on which criteria, but still keeping the flexibility of having the two settings, seem to me really cool. Thank you. Sorry if I spoke too much.
I think it was just a great input, also sharing your experiences, because I think you have been to many SuSanA meetings so far. Me personally, I've only attended the 2 online meetings so far, and I've always listened to Cecilia and Franzi and also SuSanA talking about the great face-to-face events, and that it was always great to meet each other, to get to know other SuSanA members. And I think that's one of the biggest parts that I'm missing. It's this networking, and I think that's just one of the biggest benefits of face-to-face meetings. On the other hand, with not having experienced face-to-face meetings or events or conferences yet, and with a background in environmental sciences, and with the IPCC report that just was recently published, I strongly see a big argument in the avoidance of CO2 emissions by, or at least the reduction of CO2 emissions by not having to travel by plane. Back to Arne. You have to turn on your micro. Arne, your microphone.
I was inviting Dorothy to say a few words about what she has written.
I can do so. Upcoming events, one idea would be the World Water Forum in Dakar, planned for March 2022. And then I just wanted to react. I think to reach as many as possible, and that's one of our goals, we should have a mix of various events. And maybe also the change management process will show that there's some legal or formal constraints about these meetings, how to take decisions and how to be inclusive and so on, depending on where the organization is based and the laws of the country. But I think to have in the transition phase 2 global online meetings where really everyone can attend, and then try to maximize regional meetings of any form, webinars, having working group meetings at conferences, and yeah, just go for every opportunity that is there.
And Franzi has put on her camera. Maybe Franzi would say a few words. But I'd like to add one sentence to what Dorothea said. In the beginning, the SuSanA meetings were plenary meetings where everything was decided. We were between, in the beginning, 20 and then up to 90, 100 people, often a completely crumbled room and long discussions, which were strategic on what we're doing. And the minutes of these meetings were our law and that was the highest body, the plenary meetings. Then sort of it became too big. And now I think as I read Dorothea's or what she had said is that actually, okay, in some conferences, some people will be there, but maybe our effort should be less to then bring many others there and make it sort of an assembly meeting, but sort of still organize what is there, but with less effort to bring additional people. That's what I hear from that. Franzi.
Hi, everyone. First of all, congratulations on this grand week. You definitely deserve your cake on the weekend. I couldn't attend as many sessions as I was planning to. I don't have a strong opinion or kind of maybe not the idea of how to have the future meetings. I think I do have an opinion about not letting go online meetings, because I think there's just too many pro arguments that Finn also nicely listed. But I'm very sure that once the face-to-face meetings will come back in, I don't know when, but people will have tears of joy. I'm sure about that. So that we can't also go fully online for forever. So I don't know if hybrid events will be the way to go, but because maybe there is a risk of not having the great advantage of both, but some middle ground. And I think hybrid events are just developing and they're not optimal yet, but maybe there. But otherwise, it's kind of face-to-face event and another time fully online events. And my thoughts just circle around if we're now at the beginning of kind of the SuSanA 2.0 and also the discussions around after COVID, what's the new normal, if we try to let go of the old traditions and conventions of how the previous SuSanA meetings have been and try to think about something completely new. For example, I think this 1 week sanitation week hosted, facilitated by SuSanA could be a nice format, and maybe also moving away from the either busy Stockholm August and holiday August for some to something around the World Toilet Day, so that SuSanA would host a sanitation week leading up to the World Toilet Day, and to kind of raise that a bit more. And then, yeah, also like Dorothy said, maybe different formats. There might be a new General Assembly, there might be more regional meetings, webinars. But I think maybe let go the previous 29 meetings and think about what the new thing could be. But anyway, it will be great as always, kind of, I think, yeah. I was also thinking about any event platforms or fancy things, but I think this familiarity in the SuSanA meetings is also something good to keep and not to make it too fancy or high level. So again, congrats from my side, just a few thoughts, and I'm super happy to see you all. Over.
Likewise. Yeah, thanks, Francie. Thanks a lot for your input. And I've seen the chat is very active. I've seen comments from Elizabeth, from Stefan, and a few more from Dorothy. If anybody wants to speak up, I would invite you to do so. Otherwise, I think I would suggest to continue with the last notes. And then we can also, for everyone who wants to join, do some more networking on WonderMe. All right.
Perhaps a very last thought, and which I find from the experience of being part of the organizing team from the SuSanA Secretariat perspective of the last 2 online meetings, I find very helpful to actually share also the responsibility with other members of the community. So we cannot forget that we had working group leads organizing sessions and communicating with the speakers. So in this case, we became more a facilitator, which we think it's actually the role that we see ourselves as the secretariat instead of curating or something of this sort. But with that, I am happy to move on to the next slide. There is indeed a very interesting discussion in terms what are the functions and the role of the SuSanA meetings, and picking up from what Arne has mentioned, that back in the years and of the foundation of the network, the meetings were rather a planner, rather a governance decision-making point, and over the years it has become a bit more content oriented. So I think that these are very interesting aspects and conversations going on the forum that we should for sure take up, or we know that the SuSanA Secretariat should definitely take up in the future while planning the next ones.
Thanks a lot, Cecilia. And I invite you to just continue with the final notes.
All right. Yeah. So as you know, we also knowledge sharing and knowledge management is in the core of our heart. So all the sessions and recordings will be uploaded on the SuSanA platform. So stay tuned, check out the newsletters, and also be active in the forum so you receive the notifications. And of course, every point of discussion that we started here, you are more than welcome to continue it in the forum. And before I would finalize the session, I would then thank actually everyone who has been involved in planning for it, especially the planning committee, which has been meeting over the past 3 months on a bi-weekly basis to make sure that all the threads are put together so we can have a nice meeting. All the technical support from the SuSanA Secretariat staff, but also from active members of the SuSanA community. So you make this meeting possible and you make this meeting a success. So thank you very much for taking part, being part of this week. And now, so we do not miss the networking side of it, we invite you to join us at a networking session at WonderMe. And in case you don't know in case you don't know, wonder me, or you don't know this picture, where is there? So for many years, SEI, which has been a close partner of SuSanA, has co-hosted the meeting in Stockholm. And Madeline, who you probably had seen in some sessions during this week, she has kindly always booked for us this small island here on the bottom right corner of this photo. And that's where we used to hang out after the meetings. In the past years, the SuSanA meeting was also connected to Stockholm World Water Week. So it was kind of a bit of people arriving in Stockholm, having the first exchanges, having an overview of what's going on the week. So where the networking effect was a bit more present, but still, we would like to invite you to join us in the island. And if you're already out of office, maybe with beer or with a soda, so we can just have a chilled and relaxed conversation. Last but not least, I forgot. Okay. Yeah. So just exactly. I wanted to let you know, in case you are not registered yet to the Stockholm World Water Week. It's starting on Monday. And this year, so the conference didn't take place last year, but it's taking place now online. Registrations are free of charge, so you are welcome to browse through the program and select some activities. I'm sure there will be plenty of SuSanA partner organizations hosting and co-hosting events. So it will be really nice to see some faces there as well. And with that, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to my colleagues at the SuSanA Secretariat for making this exchange possible, and hope to see you at WonderMe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Sleep well, Elizabeth.